Good afternoon, Sean here, Mountains Garage. It's a beautiful Sunday afternoon. Kind of quiet and still working on the 71 Nova. I get tired of working on areas, so I go to other areas. Everything needs work. And still working toward an engine combination. It's going to be carbureted, and the carburetor I have in mind is a 750 Holley double pumper that I got thrown in on a deal when I bought the 402. It is factory, no choke, 4-corner idle, 750 double pumper. Those are the good things, with no plastic on it. So it's, who knows what year. It's not old, it's not new, somewhere in between. But somewhere along the lines, somebody painted it black. That combined with sitting around, I've taken apart and restored nastier ones, but this one's up there. So someday I'm going to do a video assembling it. I didn't do any before work. I'll probably show you a picture of it now when I'm walking around talking about a few other things. I'm going to start. I have carburetor solutions, a 5-gallon bucket that I'm going to soak it in. Hopefully that'll loosen the paint, maybe take it all off. And then, depending on what it looks like then, I may be doing the tumbling. Who knows? Eventually, it'll look natural. Same with this intake. Somebody put a lot of orange paint on it. I've washed this, I don't know how many hours in the parts washer already. Now it's time to scrape and sandblast. It's got some stripped out holes. Gonna need some helicoils. But I think I want to use it on this one particular combination of junk that I'm going to put together. Well, I suppose we should talk about that too. So let's do it. These are the pieces that will not be soaking, mostly because the floats will be replaced, the accelerator pumps will be replaced, the gaskets will be replaced. I hang on to the base gasket just to match it up with another one. I should have enough parts to do this without a kit. I say this thing is painted black and the black's coming off. It's it'll be all right. Let's put it in the wash solution. All right, she's going down. So I can do this one-handed. Goodbye. Stuff stinks. Really caustic. Sometimes I wish it was a little more caustic, but I'll give it a few days and take a peek at it. And I don't think you can leave it in there too long. I did find time earlier this week to finish up the front suspension on the driver's side. So final thoughts on the control arms. The lowers were pretty good. I Loctited the bump stop in as a bolt on the other side that fills the same hole, and tapped out and Loctited the shock bolts. The sway bar worked out actually nicer than it was in the factory. The factory one just went through a hole in the control arm and it wasn't necessarily as straight as it is now. So that's going to be fine. The lower control arm was relatively easy. The upper, I did have to go to slightly thinner washes to engage the lock nut. It's still just barely flush, but at least it's engaged. The offsets, I showed you those in the last video. I had to open them up using the 7/16 drill. That was slightly less than 7/16. And as I mentioned, I had to make the ball joints fit on both sides, and I also got rid of the smaller metric fasteners and just put in 1/4-inch bolts like the factory replacement ball joint would have come with. I haven't put the calipers on yet. That's going to be a different video. I'm going to go over brake lines, bleeding procedures, how not to make a mess, my way of doing it anyway. Like I say, these aftermarket brake lines, I had it and they've been stabbing me the whole time, so I can't wait to get rid of them. I'm still not sure if I'm going to reuse these calipers or not. Still thinking about it. It's about $60 to buy new ones. With the cores, you get some of that money back. It's funny, the core on one side is $10, the core on the other side is $20. That's kind of funny. I got several sets of them. I'll just make that decision and move forward eventually. Before I disassembled the front suspension, I measured from the fender to the center of the spindle on both sides, and it was 15 inches. And now it's 14 inches. So it's possible I've lowered it another inch, which would be a total of 3 inches, Or it's possible it has to do with this bump stop that might be a little larger, but I don't believe so. The height of the other control lamps came down and almost came down like more of a gull wing type. These are actually sitting level, sitting here drooped. So I believe I lowered it another inch. And I'm okay with that. I can always put wheels on the oil pan, I guess. So last spring, early summer, a good buddy of mine had decided to sell this 2006 ZZ383 crate motor. Well, it came out of a Malibu ski boat. Run the number, it's legit. I actually downloaded the factory paperwork on it even. Gives you all the specs and part numbers and information. It's quite a motor, actually. Got forged crank and powdered metal rods. Has a GM part number on the top of the piston, but when you look at the skirt hanging out at the bottom, you can see that they're sealed power. I can see the logo. And I see nothing wrong with the short block itself. I looked it over. I'm going to continue to look it over as I clean it up. But nothing's jumping out at me. There was anything wrong with the short block. He said it ran rich, and they took it out, and then they potted it out. The heads and the camshaft and everything disappeared. This is just the way I got it right here, with the exception of the oil pan, balancer, timing chain and gear, a few miscellaneous bolts. Once a project enters my mental rotation, I start shopping for parts, and one night I found this Lingenfelter camshaft for a factory roller block, so it's got the cutout for the cam retainer. It had the lobe for the fuel pump, which I wanted, because this block will accept a fuel pump. So I bought that. Yesterday I bought a stock timing cover, which has the big opening to clear the crank trigger. I don't know if a traditional one will. I haven't tried it. Something I have tried, I compared this balancer, which is degreed, which is cool, the actual height of it, with a traditional small block Chevy, and they were the same. I don't know if because something has, if I was to take this off and install the balancer, it seems to me the balancer is going to be in too far. I haven't measured the stock cam gear to see if that would take up the difference, but I wonder what takes that up. I'm just thinking out loud as I'm sitting there looking at it. I'm going to leave it. The timing cover comes with a plug for the crank sensor, but someday I might want a crank sensor, so nice to have that option. Comparing the cam card to what GM installed in the ZZ383, they're very close. The ZZ383 was rated at 425. I'd be happy with anything in that range. So I'm going to continue to clean it up and look it over, make sure there's really nothing wrong with it, and assemble it with that camshaft. And it came with the oil pan and stuff that'll fit the chassis. Cool, it's got a windage tray. I pretty much got enough stuff laying around to do it. I have a set of Liberty Performance 200cc heads, angle plug. I would assume that'd be similar to the GM Fast Burn. Not that I'm trying to duplicate what it would have had at the factory. It's fine if it is. And I bought a set of roller rockers. I didn't have those, and I'll have to buy push rods. But other than that, I should have brought everything. Going to try to use that intake I showed you in the 750 Holly. I got a few distributors hanging around, so relatively short money. I should have maybe $1,500 in the whole thing. Turnkey. We'll try it out. So that's just today's thoughts. It won't be the forever engine, but at least I'll know it's together and running, and probably use it in something else if I do take it back out of the Nova. But I'm thinking right now, that's what's going in there. I know, I keep changing my mind. However, this engine is the only one still sitting out here in the shop. I think it has some good potential. I'm going to continue to assemble more of them over the winter. We are, I guess. Funny, the other night, Friday night, my wife's driving back from where she was at, and just killing time. We talk about everything under the sun, but the only time I can get her to listen to me talk about cars, she actually starts asking questions. So I start talking about my waffleness on every engine combination I have, and she told me it needs a big block. And then the next day, she told me I should relax and sit in my chair. I'm like, there's something wrong here. I slept with one eye open. So that's about all I accomplished on the 71 Nova this week. I had a few other jobs to do. I like jumping around to different areas. Keeps it interesting for me. I do a little bit on the body. Then did the front suspension. Now working on the powertrain a little bit. It'll all come together eventually. I enjoy the journey. I enjoy it when it's finished too, I imagine, but I like working on it just as much. It's been really nice out this week. I almost started a few other outside projects. I did get some more logging done with a buddy of mine. He really knows what he's doing. He's an actual woodsman. I just try to stay out of the way and move the stuff around with my tractor and drag brush to the chipper. I've never enjoyed cutting trees. I've cleared most of my property, a lot of it by myself. I don't enjoy it. I've never enjoyed it. The bigger the tree, the more worry there is. Nothing has ever gone wrong with the exception of, like I was telling him yesterday when we were cutting a especially difficult tree on a different part of the property that was in the wires. It was 10 years ago yesterday. I miscalculated and dropped a tree on my fairly new lawn tractor. That's the only incident I really had that I can blame myself for, but I used to wait till like mid-July and start cutting trees instead of doing it when it's nice out. At least now I'm smart enough to do it spring and fall, unless you really have to, but I don't know. I used to like to sweat, I guess. I do not enjoy it anymore. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.